Mr. Wilson. I don't have to take that kind of talk from anyone.
That's right, you don't. How about going outside and trying to kick me around?
I'm not supposed to fight with the guests, Mr. Wilson.
I'm not a guest tonight, you yellow bastard. I happen to be an intruder.
Hello and welcome to The Good, the Pod, and the Ugly, a film podcast where we talk essential filmographies of notable directors and actors each season, along with a number of specials, often with guests. I am your co-host, Ken.
And I'm your other co-host, Thomas.
You may know us from our other podcast, Strengthen Our Borders or Else, a design-forward podcast where we discuss in detail paper width density and text boxes and photo borders in digital presentations. We're particularly excited today because of all the traffic we've been getting on that podcast from Truth Social. We're hoping that some of those listeners are checking this out as well, particularly all our new listeners from Texas and Florida. So welcome, border strength enthusiasts.
But for this podcast, The Good, the Pod, the Ugly, we pair two films per episode and do a deep dive on their backgrounds and then talk about them. Ken, who are we talking about this season and what films are we watching this week?
Gosh, Thomas, that's a great question. Season 11, we are doing the Scarf Man himself, Darren Aronofsky. We are doing the temporal pincer movement, where we start on the first and the last, and then we move forward to the middle of his filmography. And today, we are discussing Chapter 2, which is a pairing of Requiem for a Dream and Mother, all lowercase with an exclamation mark.
And you would think as we scripted this out, it would get better, but somehow it is just as clunky. Would you edit around that, though, Ken, and just make it sound amazing?
Yeah.
And at some point, I thought we had it scripted out where we introduce our guest.
Yeah. Our guest, we are joined by Shannon. Hi, Shannon.
Well, hello there. I did see it in there before.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I swear I saw it in your script. You guys are just naturals. I am impressed. Thanks for having me today. This is great. I'm glad we warmed up.
Yeah.
No, Shannon was talking about The Curse right before we started recording, and now I just want to talk about The Curse and geek out over it for the next hour and a half. So.
Thomas, put your earmuffs on.
Oh, guys, I know, and I'm such a big fan. I can't believe I haven't stolen it somehow. Shannon, thanks for welcoming me back into the bunker. Aronofsky only has 8 films released, aside from the one that's showing right now in Vegas at the Sphere, which I might go for my bachelor party.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know anything about that. Okay,
yeah. Might take Jaws with me and go watch a movie.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So these are the 8 films of Aronofsky's. What's your familiarity?
Yeah, I've seen a good half of them. Seen Requiem, The Wrestler, Black Swan, Mother, but not The Whale. I'm curious about The Whale, though.
Yeah, and Noah, you haven't watched Noah or The Fountain?
Nope.
Oh, you are so fortunate. So you probably have a high opinion of Aronofsky.
Yeah, and I haven't seen Pi either. So I think I've picked wisely. I think I'm interested in seeing The Whale, though. So
okay. Yeah,
I would say The Whale and Pi are both worth watching.
Yeah, I think I have a copy of each. So if you ever wanted to borrow a disc player and...
Sounds arduous. I did go see Black Swan with my little brother when he was a teen. And we came out and he was like, did she turn into a goose? And I was like, I'm just going to take a wild swing because of the title. I think she might have turned into a swan. A black swan.
Spoilers.
That cracked me up.
All right, I'm just going to call that movie the Black Goose.
The Black Goose,
yeah. So this week we have some commonalities between our two films, Requiem for a Dream and Mother. They extend beyond this, but in each, there is destruction of a home or a house. In both, there is fruit. Because the drug dealer is from Florida and he has the oranges.
Okay. Oh, okay. That's.
There's a credit song that then just becomes ambient sound at the end. Both have an actor whose last name begins with a W, is mainly known for comedic performances, but has a dramatic performance in the film.
So Kristen Wiig.
And
who's in Requiem? Wayans.
Yeah.
Yes. Interesting. Good job.
Thank you. Both have characters with hurt tummies. Both have smoking indoors.
Mm-hmm.
Both have someone surprisingly get shot in the head. In a separate scene, a gunshot leads to people fleeing a scene.
Wow.
As it will.
In both, somebody pukes. And in both, actually, both of these are a mother's son loses an arm.
Whoa.
Oh, who loses an arm in
Mother?
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Good God.
Maybe the son of a mother loses an arm?
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Along with a lot of other body parts?
That's right. Okay. You made it seem so specific. But it's, arm plus.
Oh, boy. So Requiem for a Dream, year 2000, same year as Space Cowboys by Eastwood. And movies that we didn't cover, The Weight of Water by Bigelow and What Planet Are You From by Nichols. Oh, and Reindeer Games. So 2 fine films. Reindeer Games by
Frankenheimer.
Frankenheimer and What Planet Are You From by Nichols. Great finishes, I think, as well for careers. So for Requiem, let's go around the table. First time watching, Shannon.
No, I saw it in the theater when it came out.
Oh, you saw it in theater. What would drive you to go watch it in the theater?
This was the era of dating, literary men who exposed me to artistic things, especially by other dark literary men and poets. So, we went to see it.
Ken, you, I think last episode said after Pi, you went straight to it, right?
Yeah. I was really excited about his next movie.
Yeah. And it, even though I'd seen Pi on DVD, this had I missed it in the theaters because I guess I was doing a lot of college at the time. But I did see it on rental. I watched this and Basketball Diaries back to back and quit smoking for a week.
Oh, really?
I did not want to be addicted to anything after watching those 2 films back to back.
For a whole week.
Wow.
No, it is an addiction. And I was in college. And it was almost still the 90s. It was the early aughts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
It was 2000, wasn't it?
Well, from when this came out, yeah. And for when I watched it. It would have been like a year right before 2001.
But the book came out in 78, and you read the book, Shannon?
I've read 3/4 of it.
Okay.
The first 3/4, maybe?
The first 3/4. I was working on it even as late as last night, trying to get closer to that end, but didn't make it. So it was kind of rough. January is a dark month, and this was a dark book, and it's hard to stick with it. But I actually enjoyed reading the book more after I watched the movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, this would be my second time reading the book.
What about the movie? How many times have you seen it?
I've only seen it twice. I saw it the time that I kicked cigarettes for a week. And then I guess I've seen it. This time would be my 4th time. I saw it again in the middle aughts, and then in the teens, I watched it with my spouse, and then watched it again for the podcast.
Yeah, I had no interest in seeing it again. I think this movie, like the next movie, has one particular scene, like toward the end, that for some people is make or break. But they're both indelible, but also tough viewings, and it's stuck with me for both movies.
And I've only seen the unrated or NC-17 version, which is the theater version. But the first pressing, I think, of the DVD was a rated R, or they did cut it a little. The sex scenes at the end to get it past the censors.
So you say there's this scene that's make or break, and for me, there's a few scenes that are intercut that I would say are all pretty rough. So I'm curious which one for you is the topper.
We'll get to that when we get to the end.
Oh, I see. We don't want to jump.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the one in Mother, I mean, that's clearly something that...
The sex scene, I understand. Don't have sex on stairs, it's unsafe.
Yeah. No, it was Ed Harris and Michelle Pfeiffer making out.
That's rough.
To show a little bit of my cards, I love this movie, and I never wanted to watch it again the first time I saw it. Mm-hmm. And there's very few films like that you watch it, sometimes you watch it and you appreciate it, but it might be long. You're like, I don't need it. But this is a film where like I actively was like, I do not want to experience that again, but I'm
glad that you
I
did.
think I'm glad that I did. I'm glad that it exists. Skinamarink, not quite as much.
Is that a movie?
Skinamarink's a movie, yeah.
Okay.
It's a
Never wanna
lo-fi.
see it again.
Yeah, it's a lo-fi movie. It's a movie that it's a little bit of an experience, but not as visceral as this. But it does have maybe like the next movie we talk about a lot of dream logic.
Oh.
So yeah, this is a $4.5 million budget movie. Remarkable for it. The DVD that I have for it comes with a lot of great special features, including like the intro that Darren Aronofsky wrote for the re-release of Requiem for a Dream, the book. And I guess we'll talk a little bit more about some of the special features, but this is also the height of like maybe DVD releases and doing cool shit with them. You can't actually start the movie for a while or like choose any of the menu selections because it opens with Tappy Tibbins doing his infomercial, Juice by You, for like a good 2 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So it feels like you put the wrong DVD in, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. The origin for it, they'd finished up Pi. Aronofsky had found Selby early in college. He had picked up actually Last Exit to Brooklyn and started reading it, and like to the expense of some of his exams, it sounded like, and became a little bit obsessed, but never actually finished Requiem for a Dream. He read half. So good job, Shannon. You did better than
All right.
Aronofsky. Had it on his shelf. His co-producer for Pi and this movie asked if he could borrow it. He needed a beach read or some vacation read. And he came back. He was like, this book tore me apart. We got to make this movie. And so
also, that was the worst vacation I've ever had.
So he maybe he went to Florida, who knows? So they got together with Selby, who was living in LA, and offered him $1,000 to option the book.
Did you say $1,000?
$1,000,
Okay.
which for a movie that's less than $5 million would become less than $5 million was a bit much. It was also large at the time, I guess, just for an optioning of a book that wasn't really well known. And so they would, Selby had already tried to work on a screenplay. I don't know if you saw that.
I thought it was credited.
Yeah.
He was credited.
Yeah, as a co-writer.
He's credited.
Yeah. He had already written it, and Aronofsky says like about 80% of that original screenplay was what he used to help.
Almost three-quarters. Wow.
Yeah.
So because I haven't finished the book, I did get to one part where it looks as if it deviates from the movie, but most of the book and the movie are just they're so close. But does it deviate at the end, or does it continue to be?
Yeah, it's pretty much. It's pretty much the same. The end actually does end with Tyrone Love and in jail as the end versus the fantasy of Borston's character.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So yeah, that's the main difference. The arm is a little bit quicker, and there's a few other things that we can talk about. But
I guess I was just impressed at how closely
it's very close.
Yeah,
it's almost
like dialogue and certain scenes just feel like they're just almost verbatim translated really well. They did a good job.
I mean, I have a book that not from the Multnomah County Library, but through their interlibrary loan system.
Shout out.
That's a 3/4 shout out.
It's called Darren Aronofsky's Films and the Fragility of Hope by Jadrinka Snorkin-Kapov. And she interviewed Aronofsky right before Noah came out, when Aronofsky was still cutting it. And she asks, you wrote some of your original screenplays, and you wrote some of your original screenplays, and the one from the book was only for the Requiem-based Selby's book. You mentioned Cronenberg as one of your influences. After Videodrome, he adapted Stephen King's The Dead Zone, and he is quoted as saying that if you want to be true to the book, you have to portray the book, because the two media are different and direct translation is not possible. And Aronofsky responds, I guess it depends. Certain books are really good for screen and certain books are not. Certain books are based on ideas that don't make great drama, and then some have some great drama going on. So I don't know. I'm always looking for new material to see what inspires me.
Oh, that was insightful. Wow.
Wow.
I do love how he translated all of the shooting up into that quick
The hip hop
sequence.
montage. Yeah, what he calls it. Yeah.
What calls it what?
Hip hop montage.
Great.
Yeah.
But just how they do that shorthand over and over again, I just think it's effective.
Yeah, Edgar Wright uses that a lot and still uses it, even though Aronofsky has kind of moved away from it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Edgar Wright does his own thing, man. He doesn't follow just what Aronofsky does.
No, Aronofsky doesn't do it as much anymore. Wright still does it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's great comedic effect, right? So, yeah, it is based off of Selby's 1978 book, 1978, of course, being the year of Dawn of the Dead, magic, and every which way but loose.
It's like the best year for cinema.
And he would say, and this is something maybe we could talk about after we get through the synopsis, that this is a book about the American dream, which is a little bit different than how Aronofsky sees the book as far as who the antagonists and protagonists are.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Requiem for a Dream. Now, holy shit, the title makes sense.
Well, Selby's not a fan of the American dream.
Clearly.
Yeah, I mean, Selby had a hard life. He got tuberculosis in World War II as a merchant marine, if I remember right. He got it. I think he was carrying some cows. I just watched 3/4 of a documentary on Selby that you can check out through the Multnomah County Library.
Shout
out. That is narrated by Robert Downey Jr.
Is it because they both have Junior in their name?
I think so. Juniors have got to stick together. As does Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito.
Twin.
Jr.
Oh.
Nice one.
Yeah, thank you.
Man, I missed that one.
So Selby, had a hard fucking life. I think he had some prenatal stuff, but then he gets he quits high school to join in the war effort of World War II. Never finishes high school, ships out with some cows. Those cows get bovine tuberculosis, so they push the cows off the ship to kill them. Everybody on the ship, I think, gets TB. He comes back to New York instead of going to the war, gets put in a TB ward. Everybody in his ward dies except for him.
Oh my gosh.
He spends 4 years in the hospital total. He has 6 ribs removed so that they can get to his lung and then remove his lung. That's how they did it at the time. And during all this, at some point, someone even younger than him in the ward dies. And the administration or somebody there asks Selby if he will write a letter to the family. And so he writes a letter to the family. The family comes and thanks him for that letter. And he starts writing letters to all types of people, his friends, everyone he can think of. And that's how he gets started writing, because he had no formal training. He never made it to college. He just started writing because he couldn't do a lot of other things because of only having one lung and being sickly. Though having one lung and being sickly did not keep him from copping, from scoring heroin throughout New York and then eventually in LA.
So he was writing from his own experience as far as the heroin addiction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a junkie for quite a bit of time.
Because they talk in the book about that. They don't have this in the movie, but the junkie that he made
in prison, yeah.
Or in jail. And how he's like, man, I don't want to be like that old junkie who's just a lifetime junkie. That's all he does. But
yeah, there's some great stuff in the book where they will say, like when they're going to Florida, they say like, man, I hope I don't lose my arm. Yeah, and I hope I don't get caught by some redneck cops.
Foreshadowing.
And yeah, it's like, what's amazing about the book, even more so than the movie for that, is like they understand the repercussions of what they're doing or the very likely outcomes, and they will articulate like, man, I hope that this inevitable thing doesn't happen.
Yeah.
A few pages later, it will happen.
Yeah, it's the law of attraction. Synopsis time?
Sure.
Okay.
Go.
Addiction, Desire, and Delusion, your favorite law firm, is what Requiem for a Dream is about. A mother, her son, his lover, and best friend all fall apart over the course of the movie due to heroin, cocaine, diet pills, fame, infomercials, money, delusions of the past that haunt the present, and a monstrous double-ended dildo that smashes it all together in an unforgettable montage where all their lives are ruined separately. Amputations, jail, electric shock, debasement. My understanding is that addiction can be anything, according to this movie. Even, running or podcast.
Hey!
So we are the addicts.
Wow.
That's great.
Yeah. 47 seconds.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, no, actually, I had to give up running because I twisted my ankle pretty bad.
Are you jonesing?
Oh,
shaking,
man.
sweating.
Yeah.
You'll do anything to get back out
Do
there.
you go to the racetrack and watch out from underneath the bleachers, all the people running around?
Yeah. I've been chipping.
So we haven't even mentioned the singular part of this movie that has really transcended the film itself, and that's the score.
Oh, yes. I had the soundtrack on CD.
I still have the soundtrack.
Do you? Nice.
Yeah, I listen. It's the most, if we look at my iTunes, it's the thing I play the most.
It is one of the best scores of the last quarter century. Easy.
Yeah, and some of how that came about is, you have, see, we can just edit all the pauses out now. It's amazing.
Take a minute.
Yeah, just take a minute. You have Clint Mansell.
I shouldn't have said anything. Again, it's the law of attraction.
You got it in my
If I hadn't
head.
said it.
You got it in my head. Okay. No, it's 3/4 of the way there. I just needed to get, I had all the syllables but the last one. No, Clint Mansell did a percussion version of things, and then they somehow got the Kronos Quartet to come in and do the strings over it. And one of the things that Aronofsky said in the features is that one of his, and this, is before he directed The Fountain, or Noah, his greatest achievements in life. He said that, the greatest moment that he's probably ever had was pretending to direct the Kronos Quartet. And so, he had a conductor's wand, and he was in there trying to, and he was like, I think I just fucked him up more.
Oh, because they're like, what is he doing with that wand?
Wait, is there video of that?
There's a little bit of video of it. Yeah, it's very short. It's like behind the scenes VHS recording. But yeah, the music does so much work in this. Mm-hmm. And he and Clint sat down and said, we definitely want this to be a requiem. So they listened to a bunch of requiems to try and find what they liked, what the notes they liked. And that's where Mansell would go and do the drum beats and do some of the sampling that then he would give to the Kronos Quartet to translate. But if you listen, and something that Aronofsky points out in the commentary track is that you can actually hear the Kronos Quartet warming up, tuning their instruments at the very beginning of the film, so that by the time the title hits, then you're actually in the song and the movie and the momentum.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Huh.
I didn't notice that, but...
Yeah, so next time you listen to it, and one of his things that he was really concerned by, and he said the worst insult would be calling it an MTV movie, because he was concerned about how powerful the music is throughout, and he said music is for the narrative, right? So he was concerned because of all the techniques, the Snoricam, the split screen, the quick editing. This had more cuts than most movies did, and the music being so prominent that people would see it more as a music video movie. Which, if you think about a lot of things at the time, highly stylistic 90s films, they did feel a little bit like music videos. When I think of Romeo and Juliet of the time, I think of it as a music video.
Train spotting.
Uh-huh.
My first note is the credit sequence, the way it's shot, was it could be, it almost looks like a Fresh Prince and DJ Jazzy Jeff video. You know how everything's framed and they're walking in a long shot, pushing the TV. It's framed with them walking between two parking meters. It all looked very forced. And I suppose if it had a forgettable hip hop song or Creed song over those credits, it would look like an MTV movie at that point.
Yeah. I mean, if it was something other than the music that they used, it would feel very differently. And one of the things that Aronofsky was very concerned about was trying to make it timeless. So even though there's some 90s fashion and there's a few things in there that would help you pin when it's supposed to happen, he wanted the music and then also the television. The reason that they did the Tippy, why am I forgetting his last name? The Juice for You,
that was one of the bigger deviations from the book.
Yeah. So the reason for that was that he was trying to, he felt like if he showed what Sarah was, I'm saying not Sarah. Yeah. What Sarah was watching, what the mom's watching, it will date it. Because if it was an actual sitcom, or even if it's a sitcom that they put on, or a daytime drama that they put on, the style of it would date when it's supposed to be. And so by having it be a ridiculous character from a whole other thing that a screenplay that he was never able to get produced, he was able to, in his mind at least, make it timeless.
Okay. So that is one thing that's not in the book, is the juicy stuff.
Tappy Tibbins.
Yeah, she's in the book. She's just watching shows, various game shows, and it's not articulated what she's watching.
Yeah, I mean, there's game shows and other things, but yeah, she definitely enters a game show as opposed to where she can win prizes. And, yeah.
because she's saying over and over again, I'll give the prizes away. I'm not doing it for the prizes. We'll give them to the poor.
And she has like reactions, right? Like, this is from the book, like, we have a secret kind of smile when the husband exclaimed enthusiastically, what a great cook she is. And Sarah smiled and winked and didn't tell it that it was a TV dinner. And the happy couple looked in each other's eyes as they ate their dinner. And Sarah was so happy for them, then checked her money and realized that she would have to go without lunch for a few days. But it was worth it to have the TV set. This is when she gets the TV back from the pawn shop.
From Margolis again.
Yeah, man. So this, one fun thing for you, Shannon, would be to watch this close to Pi, because the cast of Pi comes back throughout it. So you have the evil landlady from Pi. She's one of the women in the chairs. The next door neighbor from Pi, the young woman, she's the nurse for Sarah.
The Shenkman's in it too.
He is. Ben Shenkman's the admitting doctor at the end, who's also in Angels in America.
Okay.
I don't know if you noticed it, Ken. It's a little surprising. I did not. The protagonist of Pi, Max in Pi, is in this film.
He's for a movie about a bunch of lowlife addicts. He somehow managed to be the most unpleasant character in the entire movie.
He's the therapist that she's...
he's so condescending.
It's so amazing, his setup with the samurai swords in the background and the light with like a remote control. Yeah, he's pretty remarkable. Oh, the guy who sings on the train in the Visions in Pi, who is in a bunch of Aronofsky's earlier films, they always labeled the pervert. He's actually the pervert in the sex scene. He's the one that I think that says ass to ass. Or there's a shot of his face, and it's the same guy from the Visions.
Wow! It's the whole gang back together.
And the mailman, who they keep asking Sarah go for. He's actually the neighbor, also in Pi, and I think he's done some stuff afterwards. So, and one of the women in the chairs is from Dog Day Afternoon. She's one of the tellers from Dog Day Afternoon.
Wow. And not only does Mansell come back for the score, but we have Matthew Libatique. Right?
Maddie, as he's affectionately called. Yeah. So, yeah, doing all the lighting. And the other thing that we have that's going to be an ongoing thing is the digital effects being done by Amoeba Proteus, which is one of the production design companies that Aronofsky helped start with some of his college people.
Huh, really?
Yeah, so he said there's over 100 digital effects, and some of them are really small, like Sarah Goldfarb's eyes get a little bit bigger, or her face changes a little bit during electroshock. And then there's the effect, the radioscoped effect of when they appear in her apartment, Tabby and her red dress self, where they look like television static.
Yeah. That's a good effect.
Yeah. So, but the idea of his effects company is to do effects that are unnoticed. So not big production things, but really small tweaks to things to enhance a film.
So I haven't seen Noah yet, so I can't say this about his entire filmography, but I do generally like Aronofsky's unshowy use of digital effects throughout his filmography.
Yeah, and this is in many ways, like a fairly showy film. I mean, this is like that freshman film, or the freshman film was definitely Pi, where you're showing that you can do something with no budget. This is a great film for okay, I have a little bit of a budget. What am I going to do? And I was so ready for what everybody was going to do after this film.
Yeah, agreed. Though watching it, 24 years later, it still almost feels like a calling card directorial effort, where it's a bit showy at times. And I think the later two movies that we watched, The Whale and then Mother, it really feels like he's more experienced of when to deploy that part of his director toolbox. Here, I think it's over deployed a lot.
I think it's a Maximus film, though, that kind of asks for it. And I think he does show a little bit of one of the things I think does show a little bit of maturity there is that if you watch the deleted scenes, 5 of the deleted scenes are split screens. And the reason he cut it was that those split screens were between our 3 junkie or heroin junkie characters. So it had Marion, Tyrone, and Harry. And so those split screens happen originally, like we see elsewhere, vertically. And then it'd go to their eyes horizontally. And then it would have a cut scene where there's actually 6 frames up there where they're on kind of like Brady Bunch style. They're on the left-hand side with their eyes, and then you see on the right-hand side what they're looking at. And it's all during the latter half of the movie where they're going through withdrawal. And so it's showing them trying to like pay attention to other things than their sickness, their junk sickness. And he cut it because it was wrong for the pacing. But I think he also cut it because it's just it's trying to do too much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm now trying to think of the Brady Bunch theme song and applying that to the characters in this movie. I mean, here's a story about a lovely lady. It could have the same start. That could apply to either Burstyn or Connolly.
I think that is definitely something that you should
not work on.
Work on for the socials. 100%.
Okay, I'm on it.
Yeah, I mean, and what a great cast as well. I think just because of where she was in her career, this is a moment like people really focused in on the Ellen Burstyn performance, which is great. Like it is remarkable.
She is fantastic.
I mean, because she had such a banging start, right? Like Last Picture Show, The Exorcist, and Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then, her stars started to not shine as bright.
She was excellent. Yeah,
I mean, but so's Leto. I mean, this is the same year as American Psycho.
I'm not a fan.
Hey,
he seems to be doing an extended Ray Liotta in Goodfellas take on the character
with his accent.
Dialect. It really started bugging me after a while. I mean, I like Leto fine, but once I realized he sounded like Ray Liotta, I couldn't get it out of my head.
Well, now you just ruined it for our listener and Shannon.
This isn't his fault probably, but his hair was too dark. I thought it seemed like they made his hair too dark. I don't know if maybe that's his natural hair color, but.
Well, I mean, one of the questions I had was...
not an acting choice, but...
I mean, for Ellen Burstyn's Sarah character, she has perfectly nice gray hair. Why would anyone dye their gray hair red?
Mm-hmm.
To be on TV.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
In a misguided attempt. Jennifer Connelly, gorgeous.
Yeah, I didn't realize that she started with or was in Dario Argento's movie Phenomena.
Before the Labyrinth.
Yeah.
And then Marlon Wayans. Marlon Wayans looks exactly the same now as he did in this movie.
I am not a fan of his casting either.
Really?
He looks too healthy.
Huh.
Well, he's real skinny though. I guess Jared Leto's also really skinny.
Leto has the no muscle frame with his shirt off. Marlon Wayans just looks ripped when he's standing there naked and then remembering his mom.
Yeah, looking at his closet doors.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's some scenes where definitely you can see the makeup and the runny nose and other parts to it that I think for me, it sells it. And his acting sells it. I mean, it's the same year. Is it Scary Movie was the same year and he was filming this the same year as Dungeons and Dragons? Is that right?
I think so, yeah. Busy year.
He originally was supposed to be... Okay, so here's another reason to hate Joel Schumacher, maybe. I don't know if you know this.
Another one?
I don't know if you know this or not.
Hold on, let me pull out my 500-page notebook filled with reasons to hate Joel Schumacher.
So, Marlon Wayans was originally considered for the role of Robin in the 1992 film Batman Returns.
Uh-huh.
But the studio felt that there were too many characters, so they cut him from that. Then he was signed on to play the role in Batman Forever, play opposite Two-Face. But whenever it went from Tim Burton to Joel Schumacher, they cut both parts and they just paid Wayans out.
Oh, but doesn't Robin appear?
But
in
not
Batman
but
Forever
not as Marlon. No, he was put into a different role to play.
Okay,
and because Tim Burton still wanted to have him on there. I've forgotten about his television Wayans Brothers. Like that went on for 5 seasons. He was extremely popular at this time. Like
he's still touring today. He's going to be in Seattle in March. Tickets are $49.
There are some parts. Spoiler: the end of this movie that it wasn't supposed to be funny, but Marlon Wayans is on his prison cot at the end, and he's looking sad because his life is ruined because drugs. And then it superimposes the photo of him and his mother.
Yeah,
on the screen. I just started cracking up because it seemed like a lot. And like when you say a maximalist movie, maybe should have pulled back a little bit on that.
But this part of the movie, they are ramping up. They are not holding back on any of the drama and the trauma and the awful things. So it kind of...
I think you can only laugh if you watch it a second time for that.
That's true.
I don't think because I think the first time you're in it, and it's really hard to. I think that it's successful even with that in there.
He similarly goes for broke. We'll talk about it with Mother in the last half hour or so of Mother in a similar, very much on the line of, like you said, Thomas, the first time you saw it, you didn't want to see it again. And I really had the same feeling when I first saw it. I thought it was really powerful, and I never wanted to see it again. And then rewatching it, seeing it in the context of his filmography, I appreciated a lot of it, but then I really think that maximalist style that you talk about, I don't think he's quite there with this movie. I shouldn't be laughing at that stuff at the end.
You're just a cold person.
That could possibly, that's besides. I shouldn't be laughing at like a dude in prison who ruined his life because of drugs, but the superimposing of his mom's photo.
Yeah. And I mean, it just goes on with your other ideas, Ken, like doing a laugh tracks or Mr. Science Theater 3000 style thing for Schindler's List. It just seems like bad taste, man.
Okay, I'll cross that off my my podcast list.
Hubert Selby Jr. shows up as the guard who's yelling at Marlon whenever he's doing the mashed potatoes.
Oh.
And he was on set somewhat regularly and would, one of the things for, as Sarah's getting the electroshock therapy, he would read, before they would go into that, he would read passages from the book to Ellen Burstyn to help her with the mindset and the rhythms of what she was about to go through.
Did he have to do it between each time because she would forget?
They saved on production costs by really just giving everybody electroshock therapy. It helped. And I'm always surprised that Keith David is in this film.
Me too.
He was cast according to Aronofsky because Aronofsky thought he was so fucking charming, and the guy needed to be charming.
Are we talking about the guy who basically prostitutes Marion for
Yes
heroin? That's pretty charming.
Yeah, Big Tim.
Yeah.
He said that he was the most upfront person. It's all transactional, and there was no
True.
delusion or anything else. And he needed somebody kind of charming to having things be that explicit seem okay and wrong at the same time.
It was weird seeing somebody that's so recognizable because he's like one of the great character actors in a relatively bit part in this movie. Like you could see the appeal for a Burstyn or Leto or any of those actors that are the main four. But this is kind of a small role. It was a surprise that he showed up.
I mean, talk about small roles. You had Dylan Baker, who I didn't realize this got his start uncredited in Ishtar, but showing up as the doctor who, for like a scene, grabs Jared Leto's arm and then takes the completely improvised, takes the medication with him when he leaves the inpatient room.
That was a good
improv. That was great.
Yeah, it's a great thing to do, right? Yeah. So yeah, who else? There was somebody else who was just a really short. Oh, I think that's probably Shenkman that I'm thinking of.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I think of all these four films that we've watched so far, Aronofsky's is a whiz, sometimes too much of a whiz with the camera. But he is so good at casting and directing his actors. Like a lot of these actors here in the main roles, it's like probably some of the best work they've ever done. Ray Liotta impersonations aside. But I mean, people talk about, a director's style and what they can do with a camera and editing. But if you don't have a great cast and a facility of directing them, and that might be his greatest skill that maybe doesn't get talked about enough.
Yeah, I think that there definitely has to be something there. And I think the Academy recognizes it, like we talked about last episode, where he has 8 films and 6, I think, actors have been nominated for Academies, and 2 of them won. If I remember right. I'm just going off the top of my head.
Portman and Fraser?
I'm probably 75% of correct there.
Yeah.
3/4.
Yeah.
But I think for The Rustler and for The Whale, Best Actor.
And then Black Goose.
Black Goose.
Was definitely nominated. I don't think that.
No, Natalie Portman won.
She
Best
won?
Actress.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then maybe 3. And yeah, of course, this is the first time that he's part of his film's nominated, and that would be for Burstyn's character, and she loses to Aaron Bernard.
Julia Roberts.
Thank you. I was trying to say all of them at the same time.
Was Burstyn nominated for Best Actress and not Supporting?
I couldn't remember, but I thought it was Best.
Huh. Well, I mean, she's great in this movie, and she looks great, and she really goes 100% into how her character's life falls apart, and that's physically as well.
Yeah, too bad. I mean, maybe Brian will respond to this, but she had to wear 2 fat suits in this in like 4 different necks.
No shit. I'm glad I didn't know that beforehand. Otherwise, I would have been looking at her neck the whole time.
Yeah, and it looks just like a natural line on the neck for me whenever I notice it. It just looks like a natural wrinkle on somebody's skin. But she also does some things like if you notice, and whenever I think the fridge is first talking to her, she keeps her hand like on her cheek, and so that the palm is actually blocking the line that you would otherwise see for her neck line. Oh, wow. And Aronofsky just kept raving about like how she was very conscious of that line and was doing things to help protect
that we would never notice.
That we would never notice because
natural.
Does it look natural and feel natural? Yeah.
One actor we haven't talked about is Christopher McDonald as juicy guy.
Oh, that's what I wanted to talk about. Yeah, of course. Happy Gilmore.
He is so. There's something about his face that he can contort it into looking so odious and unlikable. But there's a scene at the end where she's having a fantasy of being on the show, and he's like smiling and dancing. It might be the first time I've ever seen Christopher McDonald not look like a jerk. And it was kind of off-putting, but also kind of charming in a way. Because I'm just so used to him playing that character, you know?
Yeah. Tappy Tibbins, like I said, was drawn from a character from another screenplay that he had. And the whole reason was to give her a show that was outside of time. Apparently, all the audience stuff was shot in one day. Mm-hmm. And that audience afterwards came up to, they were all SAG members, if I remember right, there for one day. But afterwards, even though they knew it was a performance, they cheered them at the end, like it was an 8-hour day, cheered them. And some people were coming up to Christopher McDonald afterwards, asking him about the program.
Oh,
it reminds me a little bit.
So silly.
I know. When it was at Comic-Con, like in the aughts, Sarah Michelle Gellar had just made The Grudge, I think, and so she was there to promote that. And people would come up to ask questions and say, "Buffy, I was wondering," and she's like, "I'm not Buffy."
Were you one of those people, Thomas?
I was. No, I'm gonna just yes and that. Yeah. I definitely was. Some of the cool stuff in this, if you're not technically inclined, of course, the Snoricam that's used by everybody except for Harry. They cut Harry's, and it's actually not part of the special features for some reason.
And what are you saying there?
Snorri is the name of the people who created it. They first used it in Pi, I think, and then they use it here. But it is similar, like Julian Donkey Boy or other movies where you have a harness on and the camera's facing you, and so you're always in front, the center of the frame. The background changes, and they do that 180 cut, which I always think is interesting, where they cross the line with Jennifer Connelly's character when she's like going to the elevator, and then it goes around. And then it comes back around on her. The second one's a cut, but it's super fascinating. Tyrone has it whenever he's running away from the shooting.
Yeah.
And who doesn't have it?
Harry's character, Jared Leto.
Ray Liotta.
Yeah.
Huh. They cut his out.
Yeah. And Aronofsky said that he plans on using it in another film at some point. This was back in 2000 when he was recording the commentary. I have no idea what film he would use.
You should do it now.
Yeah. Just randomly put it in. Maybe at the very end of a Marvel.
It could be a flashback in the Morbius movie.
Or Bias Dialers Club. What am I doing today?
Bias Dialers.
Buyers Dallas? What?
Dallas Buyers Club.
Is Jared Leto still alive?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I'm getting him confused with Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very different.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Sorry.
One's Morbius and one's the Joker. Get it straight.
So my favorite Jared Leto story is from the set of Morbius, where in the early part of the movie, he plays a guy who has a debilitating physical ailment. So he's like on crutches and moves very slow and deliberately. And he's such a method actor that he did it the entire time. So when they would cut and he would go to his trailer, it would take him 20 minutes to get to his trailer because he was in character on those crutches. And then he would do whatever he did. And then it would take, and the whole crew had to wait while he did that.
It's very silly.
Yeah. It's pretty funny. If you've seen the movie, it's even sillier because why are you putting so much effort into
trash.
Terrible movie. Yes.
Yeah. He did lose 28 pounds for this film.
That was obvious. He was real skinny.
Yeah, he was pretty emaciated.
Yeah. And he was wearing all the clothes like the guys that I dated back in that era too.
The shirt.
Yeah, the big
the shirt is in the film.
Sweater.
Is it?
Yeah.
Your plaid button up?
Yeah, my green plaid button up is in the film. I was watching, it's whenever they go to throw the planes off of the top of the building.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
When they introduced the Jennifer Connelly character.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Those big old pants, big old slack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially they do a good job of showing his t-shirt clinging to him and Marlon.
And he's kind of hunchy.
Yeah.
Bad posture.
So I guess I have a comment maybe that we could discuss, and the Aronofsky mentioned in the forward to the book. So I think they maybe dovetail into each other. So in the re-release of the book in 2000, Aronofsky wrote, after sketching, this is talking about trying to translate the book into the film, into the screenplay. After sketching down the character arcs, I realized they were all upside down. So I flipped them over and I suddenly had an eureka. The hero wasn't Sarah, it wasn't Harry, it wasn't Tyrone, not Marion. The hero was the character's enemy, addiction. The book is a manifesto on addiction's triumph over the human spirit.
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, if you look at the end of the movie, then in that view, it would have a happy ending.
Yeah, addiction wins.
It wasn't terrible.
But this is also, so Selby's sense of his own work, is that it's a spiritual thing, and it's showing a way of having empathy with people that you otherwise wouldn't. And also that people have these distractions from the now and the present and distort what's going on. But what's interesting to me, I guess, looking at the rest of Aronofsky, and even the next film we're about to talk about, is that this, and our discussion last couple of episodes, is that this is a film that's godless. Like, there is no religion in this film, as best as I can tell.
Oh, well, I mean, Sarah, she's Jewish, and I think they...
In the book, but they cut a lot of that. I mean, that's one of the interesting things they cut out. Yeah, because in the book...
it's a bar mitzvah.
The dress is for the bar mitzvah. It's not his high school graduation.
And also the meal that she's going to cook, they change from stuffed fish and borscht to pot roast.
I think so.
Yeah,
so
they do change that.
And they also change for Jennifer Connelly's character, Marion Silver. Like, I think they've still mentioned, like, they have that garment thing, the garment people, because she's from like a middle class family. But she gives Harry shit a couple of different times because the Jared Leto character says things like, "I'm tired of schlepping the TV here," or he's using Yiddish, and she's like, "Don't use Yiddish around me. It's triggering for my family. Like, I don't want you to talk Yiddish." So there's definitely a larger Jewish presence in it, but there's no real religion in the book either.
And her name is Marion, like Silverstein or something in the book. It's not Silver. I think her name is Jewish too. So they do change all that.
Yeah.
Is Aronofsky intentionally doing that so he doesn't kind of get pigeonholed, given some of the subplot in Pi?
Yeah, I don't know 100%. Like, he didn't comment on that, and I wasn't able to find any statement towards it. I would imagine that it is to make it more general, to a more general audience. But yeah, I don't know.
So this movie did not make a lot of money, right, when it came out, but it has kind of had a fairly healthy life afterwards.
Yeah, and it did well enough in that it definitely made its money back, and I think it made like $7 million total, $8 million. Like, it didn't double its budget, but it wasn't like a breakaway hit.
But people still listen to the score,
including you.
Yeah, yeah.
People probably still say ass to ass.
People probably follow Tappy's 3 things you have to do in a month. Juice by you.
I still don't understand the system that Tappy has. It makes sense that those SAG actors came and asked him about it because...
Well, they tell him what the 3rd thing is, but they don't say it. And actually, Marlon Wayans and Jared Leto followed it.
What do you mean?
So... you remember what the first 2 things are that you had to cut out?
I don't know.
Sugar?
Sugar's one of them, and they cut out sugar from their diets like a month before they started filming.
And what was the other one?
Oh, I can't remember what the second one is. I was hoping you would. I know what the third one is because I looked it up.
Oh, what is it?
The third one is sex.
Have it or don't?
Don't. You had to give it up for a month. Oh, processed foods. Isn't that the second one?
Yeah, processed
Yeah.
foods. And then you give up sex for a month?
That's the third one, supposedly. Yeah.
That they don't include.
That they don't
Yeah.
include. So yeah, this movie to me seems like it cuts out the religious themes that we'll see in the rest of Aronofsky's films. Unlike Pie and Mother, this film doesn't have a single subjective character. We get kind of everybody's, like we get 4 subjective characters maybe.
But that makes sense because the book switches back and forth so evenly.
But he decides to shoot it. Like it's interesting that if we watch Pie against Mother, like with Mother, you were stuck with like 3 perspectives throughout the film. Like it's very stripped down as far as what it's going to be able to show, where you're going to be able to look at something from a camera.
Mm-hmm.
And in this film, it's a lot of close-ups, split screens, other techniques. The other thing that I want to shout out is that the moment where Sarah starts her diet, which in the movie is based off of a friend's book, and the book she goes to a library, and the librarian is kind of dismissive, right? Like,
well, the librarian's laughing because Sarah's like, "Do you have anything shorter? You have an easier diet? Anything shorter?" And the librarian's like trying to hold back a laugh, like, "I think this one you could probably handle."
Yeah,
it's just a pamphlet. Basically.
What's amazing about Selby's writing is that you could tell that the librarian's laughing without him telling you that she's laughing on the inside.
No, I think they do.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Well, he's good enough that he doesn't give attribution to a lot of his dialogue, and it's all part of a paragraph, so you know exactly who's talking.
Yeah. He also doesn't like to use.
The reason he doesn't like to use apostrophes, according to the documentary, is that he wrote originally on a manual typewriter, and on a manual typewriter you have to hit Shift, I think 8, to get to your apostrophe, which is difficult to do. And he said that they look like dicks, upside down dicks. I guess just regular stuff, like the ball's up here. Here's the.
Oh, you know what? Oh shit! I wish I didn't hear that.
Did I ruin apostrophes for you?
You may have ruined them forever.
No more contractions. No more possessives for you.
But he would use it when he really had to, when the word wouldn't make any sense.
He would put a slash in there.
Well, that's what I mean. I'm sorry. He would put in as his substitute, which is a slash, only when under duress.
Is that why Data from Star Trek never used contractions?
No, he used contractions. He just didn't use apostrophes. No. He just would.
Are you arguing about Data, or are you talking about Selby now?
I'm talking about Data from Star Trek.
No, I'm talking about Selby.
What did Data have against penises? I guess that's a different episode.
Yeah. That is a different episode. He is programmed in over how many ways of making love we established in First Contact, the movie. Which sounds like a porn now that I'm mentioning it.
First Contact.
Yeah. Other thing I thought was fun in Selby said, so Selby switching gears. One of the fun things that Aronofsky said, because Aronofsky originally was going to be an animator when he was thinking about film, is that he was inspired by Shenkman, the Czech who did Alice and Faust. I don't know if you've seen either of those, Ken. If not, I have the discs. They're fun.
Okay.
They're really kind of surreal stop motion and puppetry. And so whenever Sarah is first on the diet and has the egg, the half a grapefruit,
and a cup of coffee,
oh,
and it just
it just vanishes, and you hear the sound effect with it. That's a shout out or an homage to Shenkman.
Oh, okay.
I always think it's kind of strange to just do something like that once in a movie, though.
It is.
You just kind of bring in something and it just is there.
But it does feel a little bit like the hip hop stuff as far as sound effect and just a cut. But yeah, it is a little, that might go to Ken's argument that he pulled out too many stops. It was doing too much.
A little too showy. I don't really mind it. I just think it's to the detriment to the ending of the movie, seeing it a second time.
I think for me,
it's cool because he's so fucking talented, but I don't need to hear the entire American songbook just because you're a good singer.
Do you have a comment on that?
No. I was just going to say that for me, what stood out was what I'm looking at on your DVD sleeve is the shot.
The poster that came with my DVD, you mean?
Oh, sorry. This poster is the shot on the dock or the
when he's running
boardwalk.
To her?
Yeah, that just
seems superfluous.
Yeah. And like when he sees it out the window in that one scene,
he commented on that. That's pulled from his own life. He went to go meet a love interest in a similar fashion. It really stuck with him. And he needed something to condense all of Hubert Selby Jr.'s various dreams and visions that the characters had down to something really small. And so that's what he chose for Harry. Tyrone Love's mom is throughout the book as far as something he goes to. I don't fully know, as I'm thinking on it, Connolly's character, if she had something that she went to.
So I don't know if she did either, but they did allude to the idea of her getting that gallery space or that shop. And there was that photo of her and Harry in front of the shop. It was as if they had signed a lease or but it was never
expanded upon, right?
Beyond that.
Yeah, what's strange about that, I guess, for me, is that in the book, Marion and Harry, it's like Harry has an idea for a coffee shop, and she's like, that sounds like a great idea. And he's like, yeah, it's kind of a great idea. And in the movie, he has like a lease potentially. He has like a business plan all like in a folder ready to go. And it's for her business, if I remember right, like her designing clothes. Whereas in the book, she's like, seems to be like tagging on to his idea of like, oh, we can make it an art gallery and I can start drawing and putting stuff in it.
Yeah.
So I like that the dynamics different there in the movie where like it's kind of, he's helping her dream as opposed to somebody tagging on to the other person's dream.
And when those dreams come true, we have a requiem.
That'd be a great ending place. But the one thing that's not in the book that is in the movie is that phone call that they have between each other. That was completely improvised by the actors and Aronofsky. So whenever Harry's is about to lose his arm, I think, and is in prison and is calling
in the bathroom,
and she's like, "Can you make it home tonight?" And
that's
he's like,
so sad.
And he says, "Yes."
Just wait for me. Just wait for me. Yeah.
That's probably the one scene that's probably the most affecting, right? I don't think he really goes over the top just because the sadness and the sense of loss that all these characters are experiencing because their addictions. That simple scene might be the most effective.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in the book it's amazing, and I think they do a really good job in the movie of Harry and Sarah, mother and son, whenever he realizes that the grinding sound that you've been hearing. I was waiting to see, my spouse is a dentist, and I was waiting to see if she could hear it or not. And she didn't pick up on it until like I pointed it. And she was like, oh, she's grinding her teeth, isn't she? I was like, yeah, she's grinding her teeth. But what's amazing about that technically, and Aronofsky talks about it on the commentary, is if you watch it again, they cross the 180, they cross the line with the camera to go from light to dark. So as the scene starts off, they're both sitting, and both shots are from with the light coming in from the outside. Artificial light's all set. The light coming in from the outside, and their faces are bright. And they're talking about like how they're doing well, and he's getting her TV. And as Jared Leto's Harry's hearing her grind and trying to figure out what it is, and it's a quiet moment, the camera pans across. Sweeps across, and it goes over his shoulder, and the rest of the scene is shot from the dark side of on the opposite side of the light that's coming in. And that's when things start to go bad, when he realizes that she's addicted. And then she has that great monologue about she just wants to feel special, and it's a reason to wake up. It's a reason to get in the red dress.
Okay.
Okay. In some ways, the book and the movie, there's a lot of earnestness. Like the characters are very earnest, and they are good. Like they love each other, and they want, like, Marlon loves his mom, and he's just a good-natured guy. And Harry does love his mom, even though she drives him crazy. And she wants the best for him. And Marion and Harry love each other. There's just a lot of, and in the book, that really comes across at the beginning.
Yeah, and I think that what you leave out of the book, especially in the last quarter in the movie, is that in the book, Harry starts hiding. So Marion's getting heroin directly from the actor Keith David.
David Keith. I was getting mixed up.
No, Keith David is definitely giving in 1978 giving the fictional character Marion. So yeah, Big Tim's character played by Keith David. Big Tim continues to give her heroin and says like, "Oh, you should probably not." Tells her like, "You probably shouldn't bring all 6 bags back with you. You should probably crotch 2 of them or something." So she starts to hide heroin from Harry.
she's doing all the work.
She is. But then her and Harry start to get a little concerned. And Marion has a concern throughout in the book of like not ever having enough or being sick again. And so they start to hide from Tyrone Love some bags because they're splitting everything 50-50 or one third.
Mm-hmm.
And so they start to hide stuff from them. And so there's all this betrayal that you don't actually get in the movie, which is probably to the movie's benefit.
I think what you start to see more is just alienation, not betrayal. Like they start to get antsy with each other. And
yeah, but I mean, even Marlon Wayans, Tyrone Love, like when he like reaches at one point for Harry's hand whenever they're in the lineup and the doctor's just coming through saying like, can you hear me? Can you see me? Okay, for work. Yeah. Shit, speaking of doctors, it's so amazing when the doctor comes in, he never looks up when he's prescribing Sarah Goldfarb the drugs. Never once looks up.
Yeah. So you're overweight. We can help you with that.
You look like you're terribly overweight.
Another thing we didn't really talk about this movie is when it was made, the book it was based on, and if you tried to make it today.
Ooh.
In the obviously the current climate with social media and our
fentanyl
phones.
also.
Fentanyl.
Like the supply is not in as a
one of the characters could just be watching TikTok the whole time, and that would be their addiction.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine because she spends so much time watching whatever is on TV. Now we don't live in a world where you're stuck with what's on. You could watch anything.
I would just see her looking at Netflix and just going from thing to thing and the next episode and the next episode. And
for the eagle-eared listener, I was on my phone looking at TikTok. I'm sorry to my co-host and the guest. I will put it away. Really, this time I will.
Okay.
It's going away.
Mm-hmm.
It's going away.
Thomas does do a lot of dances on TikTok, on your TikTok channel.
Yeah.
Until you hurt your ankle.
Yeah, that is how I'm not running. Oh, man. I just really want to get back on it. Guys, the movie tells us how to watch itself in an interesting way as well, right? It's something I always find fascinating as a creative person. By opening with the infomercial and the rhythms of it, we're able to like more easily get into the rest of the film. If it was not cut up like a television show and cut up the way that it is, I think that it would be our jarring way of opening with the split screen and then potentially be that MTV opening that Ken was talking about earlier, where you see Harry and Tyrone taking the television down the street, just wide shots and the Snoricam.
That infomercial is just so kind of jarring and jittery. And then going to the split screen, I think Aronofsky, as far as how this movie is going to look and how it's going to feel, set you up right away.
Because it'd be very jarring to start with the split screen somehow.
It would, yeah.
Because you're not sure what's going on. Yeah.
But you're already used to okay, there's going to be camera tricks in this movie.
Yep.
You already know. And there's going to be weird stuff on TV.
And then having the Sarah and Harry scene start off with the split screen is great because she's locked in a closet and they're in two different spaces, even though they're in the same space. But then I think it's so brilliant because then very shortly afterwards, you're able to get one of the nicest scenes, I think, which also shows distance but and closeness at the same time. Like just the human condition. And that's when Marion and Harry are lying next to each other in the split screen. This was like post-coital, and they're like touching each other's bodies. You get each of their perspective.
Yeah.
Just like a great use of it, much more so than Ang Lee's Hulk or even, I don't know. I mean, like I'm trying to think of other split screen things, like even like Thomas Crown Affair, it just seems kind of flashy at times as opposed to useful.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Brian De Palma's use of split screens, but that's very flashy.
And even though this seems like it's flashy, I don't think that it is trying to do all the tricks or sing the full catalog. Yeah. It does seem like to be there for effect.
It definitely tries to justify it within the context of the scene in the movie.
And so one of the things that there's a moment where Sarah Goldfarb is like kind of dancing with herself and like kind of an infinite space. And that was all done in camera by doing triple exposure as opposed to trying to do it in post by layering themselves. And so what that means is they just shot it 3 times over the same film so that it would blur together.
Oh, okay.
And the reason he wanted to do that is that it's actually because of the chemical process, there's bleed over between them. Versus if you try to do that in camera and do fades in and outs of each other, it still have that crispness of the original film.
Yeah, Aronofsky's interesting that he still occasionally uses film, and when he does, sometimes it's still 16 millimeter.
Yeah, this instance it was 35, but yeah.
I think Mother's 16.
It is. Yeah, I was hoping that both of them would have the 16 millimeter in common, and now this is 35.
But he definitely goes back and forth between film. I don't know about Noah being digital. I guess we'll talk about that in a couple episodes. Yeah, I mean, he's using the various technologies at his disposal to, make the movie he wants, and he knows how he wants it to look and what's going to give him the best chance at that. Interesting. Most guys, they go from film to digital. That's it. He's still bouncing around. Good job, Darren.
All right. Yeah. Well, kudos.
To Darren Aronofsky.
To us.
And to you, Darren.
I feel like we were 3/4 of the way
through this episode. Hey, I have one question before we end this episode, though. I don't know anything about the background of this movie. Did he date Jennifer Connelly at all during this process?
Is that his modus operandi?
Yeah.
Okay. I know he dated Jennifer Lawrence, right? Before.
Yeah. I don't know anything of that. I seriously doubt that happened.
Okay. I didn't think there was, but, just keeping score.
Well, cool. That was part 1 of 2 episodes.
So this is the end of the pairing of Requiem for a Dream and Mother. So join us next week for part 2, where we will talk about Mother in the context of Requiem for a Dream and all of Aronofsky's filmography. Thanks to Shannon for joining us and reading 3/4 of the book.
My pleasure.
And also, we'd like to thank Weird AI for the theme song.
Yeah. You can find us on the social medias. I don't know what those are anymore.
TikTok, we mentioned.
Yeah, Thomas's TikTok, where he does dances.
Yeah. Athletes, where I am no longer running for the past week because of my ankle. I guess Truth Social, where we talk about borders. And all the other major social media outlets that are presently existing at the time of this recording.
I'd like to do a special shout out to our former co-host and former editor, Jack. First of all, I watch a lot of videos about editing in Audacity, and none of them made any sense. Jack sent me like a 3-page tutorial of everything he does with pictures. Fucking perfect. It was so easy. I wish he could market it somehow, because it made my job a lot easier knowing exactly what to do. And then I also realized how much work he did for 3 years cutting out all our pauses. So thanks, Jack.
Thanks, Jack.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Ass to ass.
You know what that makes us together? Together, that makes us flash gorgeous.
Flash gorgeous.
I'm not talking at you. I'm talking to you.
Flash gorgeous.
I don't want to hear about you. I want to hear from you.
It's 10-4.
10-4, buddies. Destroy. Kill all hippies.
I don't hate it. I just don't know why you strayed from the formula.
You bastards. You don't know it, Bob. I'm an artist. And I must reflect that in my rhyme.
Darren Aronofsky, we're watching you.
Ken is right.
Did she turn into a goose?